The White House has its list of priorities, and if you thought the economy was at the top, well, you would be wrong. No, it is the preservation of Confederate iconography. A bronze statue referred to as the Reconciliation Monument is the latest Confederate monument to be reinstalled by the Trump administration. Despite a history of sanitizing slavery that one retired Army general called problematic from top to bottom, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth defended the decision on Fox News.
We recognize our history. We don't erase it, Will. We don't follow the woke lemmings off the cliff that want to tear down statues. We look at and learn from our history, all aspects of it. We're not tearing stuff down. We're done with that. We're putting statues back. We're putting paintings back. We're recognizing our history.
As you pointed out to me, that's getting history a little wrong.
Just a little bit. You know, I was just double checking it. So there are two moments in history where Confederate monuments, they spiked in terms of their being put up. And none of them were during the Civil War. The first period was 25 to 60 years after the Civil War, during the height of Jim Crow segregation in the South. This lost cause narrative popped up. Again, the reimagining of history, if you will, as it relates to the Confederates and who they really fought for, not America. And then the second time was in the 1960s, specifically as a backlash to Brown versus Board of Education, you know, when there were no more separate but equal schools and we could all go to school together if we wanted. So this is intentional, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The monuments being erected now is not just like some side project or an accident. These pop up at a time to remind people of what used to be, what was, and for some, what could be again.
I agree with you that it is not an accident. Do you think at all, given the moment we find ourselves in, that it is meant to be a distraction?
I think some things are a part of the plan. Mm-hmm. And it helps to take the narrative away from what they don't want to talk about, which is Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, to their point, usually what, Alicia, every other day for the last 3 weeks, we have started the show, at least the A or the B block, talk about Jeffrey Epstein. And today, we started the show talking about his little authoritarian overreach, this time using Washington, D.C. We haven't talked about Epstein as much, but it is still very much so a story. His base still cares about it. And I think that the president and his allies would love to be talking about everything else. But I do think that some of this is part of the plan. Project 2025, the conservative Christian movement specifically. This is what they want to happen.
I'm also trying to figure out where this fits in all of the other stories that we've been talking about, because I think it is easy to look at each of these pieces as silos when in reality they are all of a part. And so one of the things that I think is interesting about this decision from Hegseth is that it is very much overriding a decision that Congress has already made. Let me read you this from The Hill. Congress took down the monument with the approval of a bipartisan commission. Hegseth subverts Congress by ordering racist Confederate monuments returned to Arlington. The monument came down because Congress, this is important, with a Republican-controlled Senate, passed a law directing the Pentagon to remove all names, symbols, displays, monuments, and paraphernalia that honor or commemorate the Confederate States of America. To execute that order, Congress created a naming commission appointed by Congress and the Secretary of Defense that included 3 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 4 retired flag officers. Why does that matter? Because you have Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, currently on Fox News, his former employer, saying that this was all something that was done by leftist lemmings, right? His words, not mine. When in reality, you actually had Republicans who decided this was not in the nation's best interest.
This was a 32-foot bronze statue that was commissioned by the Daughters of the freaking Confederacy by Woodrow Wilson. He's the one that presided over installation 30 years after the Civil War ended. Oh, almost 50. I'm sorry, 50.